I thought it was just me, but it isn't. Making the journey from What Will People Think to I Am Enough by BrenA Brown. Picture this. Susan, a talented physical therapist, is home with her baby daughter. Money's getting tight. And then, like a gift from the universe, the perfect part-time job opens up. Even better, her church has a spot in their daycare. She's thrilled, practically floating as she dials her older sister to share the news. You know that feeling when you're about to share something exciting? That little flutter of anticipation? But instead of squeals of congratulations, there's silence. Then her sister's voice cuts through like ice. I'm not sure why you even had a child if you're not interested in raising her. Susan described it as being punched in the stomach, the air just gone. That soaring joy, crushed, and by evening she was ready to turn down the job. That sickening wave that washed over Susan, it has a name. It's one of the most powerful emotions we'll ever feel, yet we almost never talk about it. And it's exactly what Dr. BrenA Brown spent over 6 years studying, interviewing hundreds of women to understand. This isn't your typical self-help book promising easy fixes. Think of it more as a detailed map out of a place where so many of us find ourselves lost, feeling broken and alone. The book became a phenomenon because Brown finally gave us words for a pain we've all felt but couldn't name. Here's what we're going to explore together: the hidden mechanics of shame, how it works, why it's so powerful, and most importantly, the 4 elements of what Brown calls shame resilience. This isn't about becoming immune to shame. That's impossible. It's about learning to move through it and come out stronger on the other side. It's the journey from constantly asking, "What will people think?" to finally knowing, deep down, I am enough. Ready? Let's dive in. Remember a moment when you wanted to just disappear? Like literally vanish into thin air? Maybe it was saying something awkward in class while everyone snickered, being picked last for the team, or a cutting comment from someone you love, like what Susan's sister said. That feeling, that's shame. And here's the thing that Brown discovered. Every single one of us experiences it. But here's the problem. Nobody wants to talk about it. In fact, even talking about shame can trigger more shame. And that silence? That's exactly what gives shame its power. Through her research, Brown wanted to finally shine a light on this thing we all feel but never discuss. Her definition is beautifully simple yet profound. Shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing we are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. Take a moment with that. It's not just feeling bad about something, it's believing we are bad. This is the crucial difference between shame and its cousin, guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. If you cheat on a test, guilt tells you, that was stupid. That's not who I want to be. Guilt can actually be healthy. It pushes us to apologize, make amends, change. It's like a moral compass pointing us back on course. But shame? Shame doesn't focus on the action. It attacks the self. Shame says, I'm a cheater, I'm a fraud, I'm a bad person. And when you believe you are the mistake, you're way more likely to make that mistake again. Shame doesn't spark change. It creates paralysis. It's also different from embarrassment. Embarrassment is fleeting and often funny later. Trip in the hallway? Embarrassed. But you know it happens to everyone. Humiliation is feeling you've been treated unfairly, that you didn't deserve it. Shame, though. Shame feels deserved. It's a prison where you believe you belong. One woman in Brown's study put it perfectly. Shame is like a prison, but a prison that you deserve to be in because something's wrong with you. So where does this come from? We're not born believing we need perfect bodies, or feeling afraid to share our stories, or worried about aging. These ideas come from outside us. Brown introduces a powerful concept to explain this: the shame web. Imagine a spider's web. On the outer edges are words: who you should be, what you should be, how you should be. These are the expectations constantly thrown at us from media, magazines, movies, teachers, colleagues, friends, and especially families. These expectations are often contradictory and completely impossible to meet. For women especially, they're incredibly tangled. Be thin, but don't look obsessed with your weight. Be successful, but don't be too aggressive or neglect your family. Be a perfect mother, but make it look effortless. Be yourself, as long as yourself is young, beautiful, and agreeable. Writer Marilyn Fry calls this a double bind, a situation where every option exposes you to judgment. You're trapped no matter what you do. And when we're caught in this web, three things flood over us: fear, blame, and disconnection. The fear is of disconnection itself. We're wired for connection. We need it to survive as infants, to thrive as we grow. Shame is the fear that something we've done, or something we are, has made us unworthy of that connection. It's the fear of being cast out. Then comes blame. When we feel that intense pain, we have to discharge it somewhere. Sometimes we turn it inward. It's my fault. I'm stupid. I'm not good enough. We implode. Other times, we explode outward at people around us: parents, friends, the person who accidentally bumped us. It's your fault, we scream, trying to hurl the pain away. Finally, there's disconnection. When we're in shame, we feel utterly alone, exposed, deeply flawed. We hide, we keep secrets. We withdraw from the very people we need most, terrified that if they saw the real us, they'd turn away in disgust. This is the trap. Shame tells you you're alone, and its nature makes you isolate yourself, which only proves the feeling right. It's a vicious, self-feeding cycle. So how do we escape? If shame traps us in fear, blame, and disconnection, what's the way out? The answer is the heart of this entire book. It's a single powerful force that shame cannot survive in the presence of. That force is empathy. Brown uses a brilliant analogy. Imagine a petri dish. Put shame in it, and cover it with secrecy, silence, and judgment, and it grows exponentially. It consumes everything. But take that same petri dish of shame and douse it with empathy, and shame starts to wither. It can't survive. Empathy creates a hostile environment for shame. It's the antidote. When we share our story with someone who responds with empathy, the painful belief that we're alone shatters. Hearing someone say, "I've been there too," or "That sounds so hard, I understand," is like healing balm. It tells us we're not broken, we're not alone, we're still worthy of connection. But real empathy isn't easy. It's often confused with sympathy, but they're worlds apart. Sympathy is feeling for someone. It creates separation. With sympathy, you're standing on the shore, looking down at someone who's fallen into a pit, saying, "Oh man, that looks terrible down there. So sorry for you." It's pity from a distance. Empathy, though, is feeling with someone. It's climbing down into the pit with them, looking them in the eye, and saying, "I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone." Empathy is connection. Brown tells a fantastic story about this. She had an impossibly busy weekend. Her daughter's first ballet recital, university graduation, Mother's Day, with family visiting. On top of everything, she'd signed up to bring cookies for her daughter's teacher appreciation party. In the chaos, she forgot the cookies. When she arrived to pick up her daughter, she saw her name on the sign-up sheet and panicked. She tried sneaking in and out, but ran right into the teacher. Trying to cover, she went into what she calls liar mode, pretending her husband must have dropped them off, even pointing to a random plate saying, "Oh, there they are." She got to the car, and shame just hit her. She started sobbing. It wasn't just forgetting cookies or lying. It was the crushing feeling of being a failure, a bad working mom. She called her friend Dawn. Through tears, she confessed what she'd done. Dawn could have laughed. She could have said, "Don't worry, it's just cookies." That would have been sympathy. But that's not what Dawn did. She listened. Then she said, "Look, you're doing the best you can. You have an impossible weekend ahead. You're just trying to hold it together, and you don't want Ellen's teacher thinking you don't appreciate her." In that moment, Brown says, the shame started fading. Dawn didn't fix the problem. She didn't make the lie okay. She simply connected with the feeling behind it. She climbed down into the pit. That small act of empathy moved Brown from, "I'm a terrible mother," to, "I'm an overwhelmed mother who did a stupid thing." The difference is everything. That ability to move through shame without it defining you is what Brown calls shame resilience. It's not about being bulletproof. It's about having tools to get back up after being knocked down. Through her research, she found that women with high shame resilience all had 4 things in common. These are the 4 essential elements for building our own resilience. The first element is recognizing shame and understanding our triggers. You can't fight an enemy you can't see. The first step is becoming aware of what shame feels like for you. For many, it's a physical reaction, a hot flush in your face, tightness in your stomach, dry mouth. When you can recognize that physical cue, you can say to yourself, this is shame, I know this feeling. That tiny bit of awareness creates space between the feeling and your reaction. Next is understanding your triggers. What specific situations or topics make you vulnerable to shame? Brown calls these our unwanted identities, the labels we desperately want to avoid. In speaking out, you might fear being seen as a loudmouth or pushy. At work, maybe incompetent or a fraud. These unwanted identities often root back to messages we received growing up. One woman in the book, Sylvia, was put on the losers list at work after making a mistake. This sent her spiraling. Talking with her sister, she remembered their father's constant refrain from childhood. "No one likes a loser." That was her trigger. Once she understood the source, she could see the situation for what it was, a toxic work environment playing on her deepest fears, and she could start healing and planning to leave. Understanding your triggers isn't about making you weaker, it's the opposite. Acknowledging your vulnerabilities is profound strength. It's like knowing where the thin ice is on a frozen lake. You don't avoid the lake, you just walk with more awareness. The second element is practicing critical awareness. Shame wants you to believe the problem is you. It zooms the camera in so tight that all you see is your own flawed self, alone and struggling. Critical awareness is zooming that camera back out. When you zoom out, you start seeing the bigger picture. You realize you're not the only one struggling. You see the social and cultural forces at play, those impossible expectations from the shame web. Take body image, an issue over 90% of the women in the study struggled with. When you're feeling shame about your body, you think, something's wrong with me. But when you practice critical awareness, you zoom out and ask bigger questions. What are the societal expectations around appearance? To be young, thin, and perfect. Who benefits from these expectations? The diet industry, cosmetic industry, fashion industry, a multi-billion-dollar machine profiting from our self-doubt. How realistic are these expectations? The current media ideal is achievable by less than 5% of the female population. When you see that, you realize it's not a personal failing. It's a cultural setup. You move from, "I'm the only one," to, "I see the big picture." from "something's wrong with me" to "I'm not alone in this." This doesn't excuse personal responsibility, but it stops you from blaming yourself for failing to meet an impossible standard. It gives you your power back. The third element is reaching out. This is perhaps the most courageous and powerful act of resilience. Shame heals between people. When we find courage to share our story with someone in our connection network, someone who's earned the right to hear it, we give empathy a chance to work its magic. Brown tells one of the most moving stories about two neighbors, Jennifer and Tiffany. For a long time, their friendship was surface level. Jennifer felt Tiffany was a bit superficial and judgmental. One day, Jennifer's sister Carly, who struggled with alcoholism, entered rehab. Jennifer needed someone to watch her son overnight so she could attend a family weekend at the center. She reluctantly asked Tiffany. Tiffany's reaction was a barrage of clueless questions. "Carly, she doesn't look like an alcoholic. She's so cute." Tiffany just couldn't reconcile addiction with her neat, perfect image of the world. It was painful and disconnecting. Months later, another incident happened. A mother was found passed out drunk in the school carpool line. Tiffany ran to Jennifer's house, horrified that such a thing could happen in their neighborhood, at their school. But Jennifer, whose family had been touched by addiction, felt empathy for the woman. She tried explaining this to Tiffany, but Tiffany didn't get it. The gap between them grew wider. The turning point came at a school meeting when they sat with a group of perfect PTA moms. Jennifer, in a moment of what she called ordinary courage, decided to be authentic. Asked about holiday plans, she openly shared that she was visiting her sister who'd just gotten out of rehab. Tiffany was mortified, trying to shush Jennifer. "I doubt she wants the details of your complicated family," she hissed. But the head of the PTA, a woman named Amber whom Tiffany idolized, didn't flinch. She leaned in with genuine concern, asking, quote, "So how's your sister doing?" Turns out Amber's own family was full of complications, including addiction and divorce. In that moment, Jennifer found connection where she least expected it. But the story doesn't end there. Months later, Tiffany called Jennifer, sobbing. Jennifer ran over to find her neighbor collapsed on the kitchen floor. Then the truth came out. Tiffany's perfect world was a carefully constructed facade. She confessed she'd never even met her father, that she was so ashamed of her poor mother, who was missing teeth, that she didn't even invite her to her own wedding. She'd spent her entire life running from her own shame, building a wall of judgment around herself that kept everyone out. "I want to be normal," she cried to Jennifer. "But I'm exhausted." In that moment of shared vulnerability, a real friendship was finally born. Tiffany had reached out. Jennifer had listened with compassion. They'd built a bridge of empathy across the chasm of judgment. This is the power of reaching out. It reminds us we're all those people. We're all one crisis, one divorce, one diagnosis away from being the person we might otherwise judge. When we reach out, we break down the illusion of us and them and find the shared humanity connecting us all. And the fourth element is speaking shame. This is about developing language to talk about what we're feeling and ask for what we need. When we're in shame, we often can't find words. We just freak out or lose it. Speaking shame is about being able to say, "When you said that, it made me feel blank, and what I need from you right now is blank." For example, remember Susan, whose sister shamed her for wanting to work? Instead of just accepting that shame, she could have learned to say, "When you question my commitment to my daughter, it's incredibly hurtful and shaming. I'm trying to make the best decision for my family, and I need your support, not your judgment." It's not about attacking back. It's about expressing your own feelings from a place of authenticity. It's translating raw pain into language that allows for connection and understanding. This is especially powerful when dealing with what Brown calls unintentional shame, when people, often with good intentions, say deeply shaming things. Think of someone struggling with infertility being told, "You should just relax," or "Have you thought about adopting?" While the person saying it might be trying to help, the impact is invalidating. The book shares a beautiful guide written for friends and family of those struggling with infertility. It's a masterclass in speaking shame. It doesn't just list painful feelings. It clearly states what's helpful and what's not. It says things like, "I need you to be a listener, and please don't tell me about worse things that have happened to others." It's a brave and authentic way to ask for real empathy. These 4 elements, recognizing triggers, practicing critical awareness, reaching out, and speaking shame, aren't a 4-step program. They're a practice. A lifelong commitment to living with more courage, compassion, and connection. And what happens when we practice these things? We start moving away from the culture of blame and fear toward what Brown calls a culture of connection. We stop chasing perfection and start embracing growth. We stop worrying about being cool or ordinary and start celebrating our authentic selves. We begin understanding that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the birthplace of courage, creativity, and connection. It's the willingness to show up and be seen when you have no control over the outcome. And it's the only path to a wholehearted life. Shame tells us a story, that we're flawed, not enough, and alone. But Brown's work gives us a new story to tell. It's a story that says our imperfections aren't inadequacies. They're reminders that we're all in this together. It's a story where vulnerability is our greatest strength, and reaching out for connection is the bravest thing we can do. It's a story that starts with the thought, "It must be just me," and ends with the powerful, liberating truth, "It's not just you. You are not alone." As we wrap up our journey through "I Thought It Was Just Me," it's hard not to feel the weight and importance of this work. What Brown has done is more than just research. She's given voice to a universal human experience that's thrived in silence for generations. She's demystified the very emotion that tells us we're too flawed to be understood. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the profound shift from seeing shame as a personal moral failing to understanding it as a social, cultural phenomenon. We don't feel shame in a vacuum. We feel it between people. And therefore, it can only be healed between people. This idea is both simple and revolutionary. It tells us the solution to our deepest feelings of isolation isn't to fix ourselves in private. It's to find courage to connect with others. In a world that seems increasingly polarized, where blame and judgment are the languages of the day, this message of empathy feels more urgent than ever. The book reminds us that compassion isn't just a virtue, it's a commitment. It's the choice to lean into discomfort, to sit with someone in their pain, without trying to fix or dismiss it. It's the willingness to say, "I'm here with you." So how can we start applying these ideas in our own lives right now? Here are a few simple, practical actions you can take today. First, start practicing the language. The next time you feel that hot flush of, "I'm not good enough," just name it. Say to yourself, "This is shame." That small act of recognition is the first step in taking back your power. It separates you from the feeling, just enough to give you a moment to breathe. Second, practice zooming out. Next time you feel shame about something, whether it's your grades, appearance, or a mistake, ask yourself the critical awareness questions. Who benefits from me feeling this way? How realistic is the expectation I'm trying to meet? You'll start seeing that many of your personal struggles are actually shared, cultural pressures. This transforms the feeling from what's wrong with me to what's wrong with this picture. And third, and this is the bravest one, identify one person in your life who's earned the right to hear your story, one person with whom you can be vulnerable. You don't have to share your deepest secret. Start small. Next time you have a tough day, instead of just saying, "I'm fine," try reaching out and saying, "I had a really hard day today, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed." See what happens when you let someone in. Connection is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. We've covered the core ideas of "I thought it was just me" today, but a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It shows you beautiful destinations, but it can never replace the experience of the journey itself. The real magic of this book is in the stories, in the quiet moments when you read a sentence that feels like it was written just for you. If anything we've talked about today has struck a chord, I encourage you to pick up a copy. It's not just a book you read, it's a companion you return to, one that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your relationships, and your place in the world. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring ideas in the world's most impactful books, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey. Let's keep growing together.